Hi, so it's the first day of film class. You weren't here, so we had a few minutes of me showing where to go with a fire drill, introducing myself, and after that was all over, uh, I showed this film, which was called Almost Every Movie Ever Made. The title being kind of a joke, and you can watch it to ask yourself why. This generated a discussion that was really heavy on plot and how the narrative arc of many films and classic stories, fiction over the course of thousands of years, have taken the same basic path where we have a character who wants something, who needs something, who is in trouble, needs to overcome a problem of some kind. Often there's a time limit, and they succeed. Of course, along the way, it's not easy. They have to fight beasts, or they go through pitfalls. They maybe almost give up, like the mouse dropping the cracker. This makes this one shot, not even a film, just the shot that we see of the mouse and the cracker, the epitome of any movie ever made. Led to a lot of discussion about plot. So we talked about what makes a really good film: plot and story, or is technique more important? And of course, both are incredibly important. It just depends on what type of a film you want to make. Do you want to make a big movie that people see? But film doesn't necessarily have to be that. Film can be much smaller than that. Film can be a commercial, or it could be a music video. Film might be an art film. Film can be impressionistic, or it can drive a plot. We can follow a character, or we can get an overall effect. And so we watched this next film, foreign film. The subtitles tell us what the narration is saying. The narration drives it forward so that we know how to think about the images that we're seeing. But the images that we're seeing are devoid of character. They are devoid of that following a person or a mouse or a creature or a specific character that we get emotionally involved with through their trials and tribulation. Instead, the character is every person. And I think that the variety, what came up in the discussion, was that the variety of children, adults, middle-aged people, the variety of people used does help to make this feel more universal. The shots help to show us something that could be us, or it could be our neighbors, or it could be our families. It doesn't matter that we follow just one character that we are emotionally attached to. We can be emotionally attached to the world. And the way that's done is through the construct of images, through the editing, what has given this film its power. So I'll let you watch this and consider those thoughts.
نخلق بيسمونا على اسم قديس. أوجد نوع على الاشياء ومنصير شوي نمشي، بيضلن محوطيننا ونحنا ما معنا خبر شي. مناكل، مننام، نعمل تحتنا وبيحطولنا كوش. بيطلع سن بيعملوله احتفال، بيلبسونا أغلى تياب ومنستفرغ عليهم. نقطع بعمر منكون ولا أهضم، نوعا بكير ومننام آخر الليل.
بوش داد.
بعدين بيجي عمر الجلائية، بيصير عندك شوارب، وإذا كنت بنت كمان بيطلع لك شوارب. بتصير شوي تتعلم تكذب، تنقل بالفحص وتحب وتجرب اشياء، وبتفكر حالك أقوى حدا بالعالم. منصير ننبسط بالاشياء، وبعد يومين بنبطل نلكشها. بعدها بتكبر وبيصير بدك 100 ألارم تنهز من التخت، وبتفوت على الجامعة وبيدق قلبك. بتتعرف على بنت وبتحبها قد الدنيا، بتعمل كل شي تتجوز، ولما تتجوز بتقول هاي هي الزاجة خلصت، بيصير بدك ولاد، ولما يجوا الولاد وتبطل تنام من وراهم بتلعن الساعة، لما يكبروا بتلاقي حالك انت كبرت، وهول الأحلام انه بدك تغير العالم بيروحوا، بتصير حياتك شي بين انه تروح على عزا وتشرب قهوة بالعرس تاكل بقلاوة. بتصير تكتشف انه كل ما يقطع وقت كل ما يزيدوا شعراتك البيض ويبطل في شي يبسطك. من بعدها بتكبر اكتر حضرتك، بتصير خايف تموت وما بتفهم انه هيدي هي خلص وقتك، بتصير تعمل مستحيل تتمسك بالدنيا اكتر، بس بلا ما تقرر ترجع للكوش للأكل المطحون، وهيدا السن اللي عملوا عليه احتفال بهر.
So the images give us our universal meaning, although the narration does hold us to understand what the point of the whole piece is, what the purpose of the film is. And so the film, it does help to have the narration. Even if it is in another language, we can still read the subtitles and follow along with it. This brought us to a discussion about how images together can be universal, and when you put two different images together, somehow by putting them side by side in time and space, that actually creates a new meaning. That there's two different shots of two different people, but if they're both struggling in some way, well, now there's a commonality between the two. So we took that to the next logical level where we watched a film that did not have the narration to help us out. This film, I want you to pay close attention to the shots. So we are going to see, kind of like the one that we just watched, in this one called Moments, we're going to see a variety of people doing actions that are common to the human experience. This one, although we have some quick clips and some sound and a little bit of voice at the beginning as it's starting up, overall the film does not have any human dialogue. This changes it and puts the entire experience of the film in your head. And it makes it so that since we don't have a plot to follow and we don't have a character to follow, we don't have a narrator helping us out, what we have to do is make meaning in our own head. That meaning is made with the comparison of two shots, what we have just seen next to what we are about to see, and then it culminates over time. As we start to accumulate shots that we have watched over the course of the 3 minutes it takes to watch this film, everything kind of piles onto itself to create a meaning. You can actually feel your brain working hard to find a significance to this. And I think you will.
The moment was...
How would you define a moment?
I can't even say.
I don't know. Ask me something simple. A moment in normal time. Normal time is this.
What is a moment, though, honestly?
It's that thing, it's beyond the senses.
A moment. I don't know.
these images just ask to be compared. They're asking you to create meaning, and the filmmakers are really astute. They do it in many different ways, mostly through editing, a little bit through music. The music does swell, and it does create a crescendo towards the end, which a lot of soundtracks and scores do to manipulate our emotions. But and this one will also edit a little bit on the beat from time to time. But what it mostly does is it connects separate images either in the form of what we see on the frame. It might be what's going on in the frame, it might be movement across the frame, or maybe into the frame. There might be emotional connections between sequences, but by putting different shots side by side, we create a comparison, as if we're looking at them at the same time. Our eyes will go back and forth and compare the two. When they're side by side in time, the same thing happens. And what we have just seen is at play and having a conversation with what we are seeing now. That is the editor's toolkit. And this film, I really encourage you to go back and watch it one more time so you can see how many different ways the editor created meaning out of what otherwise might just be stock footage, found footage. But the right editing, putting the right shot next to the other right shot and cutting at exactly the right time generates something special. So after looking at how storytelling can be created, emotions can be created, overall effect or a tone can be created through editing, through composition, without really a plot, we got back to plot a little bit. And we talked about how you enjoy a film, and in order to fully enjoy a film, a fiction film, a piece of entertainment, when film is going to be entertainment, is you have to immerse yourself into it. You have to acclimate to the reality of the film, the two-dimensional screen that you're looking at. And once you acclimate to it, you plunge into it. That world has been created by artistic directors and screenwriters and actors. In the case of this next film, which is animation, the very deliberate claymation style of the filmmaking. So what's really important is a term that I'd like us to be familiar with called suspension of disbelief. Most movies that we watch, we want to suspend our disbelief. Iron Man really exists and can fly through the air. Like, we know on a logical part of our brain that that's not true, that this is a piece of fiction. But when it's really well done and all the parts are working together really well, we suspend our disbelief, and the filmmakers can pull over a weirder and weirder and weirder story on us if we believe it. If we're not distracted by things like bad acting or flaws, like, you cut away, you cut back to something and someone's hair's changed, and you cut away and you cut back and their hair is back to the way that it was originally. We see those things, we get distracted. That's a way of pulling us out of the false reality of the film. But if we believe that the film is real, we suspend our disbelief and we get right in. Animation is amazing for being able to do this. Animation doesn't even look like human beings, and yet we can do it with animation. So as sentient beings, the emotion in our storytelling can really overpower the logic. And so we ended class with this. It's called Balance. It's a claymation from back in the 50s. It's very Soviet era. And the meaning is there, but there are characters to watch. There are people to associate with. There's a large logical meaning happening, but we have to believe that it's real, even though it's in this setting and with a structure that doesn't make any sense at all. But eventually we accept it because we want to be entertained and we want to make logic of our world. So we do accept it, and we watch the film, and we garner some big idea from it. Yeah, it's a weird one. And if you are a thinking person, you are making connections with selfishness and greed and cooperation and maybe communism and all of these sort of big ideas that it never mentions because there's no sound, there's no, apart from the music box and maybe somebody falling from time to time, there's no dialogue, nobody's telling you what to think, and we're on this weird floating hoverboard with a bunch of gray trench coated guys hanging around on it who don't look that human. There's eyes and a mouth and a nose, but that's all. So we've suspended our disbelief completely in order to think that there's something happening here and to really try to find out what's the big meaning. You can watch it again to try to explore those ideas. I'm not going to try to put an interpretation into your head beyond themes that come up that I think are probably there to be found, like those I mentioned. So to end class, it's just about the remote piece. So for the students that were here live, they then have a piece that will be put on Google Classroom remotely. That is the mise en scène piece. So you'll find a video about mise en scène. It's really about developing your vocabulary and a way of talking about what's in the frame. The key to this class and the key to really becoming a person who analyzes films versus just consuming films is having a common dialogue, having a common vocabulary, and being able to identify that everything that's in a film, right? Every character, the lighting, the way the lighting falls, the glass, the props, the color scheme, the editing, I suppose, the sound, all of those pieces are put there deliberately to construct this false reality. And they're put there to create an effect on the audience. Now, sometimes bad stuff happens in films, but those pieces are left in the film. So it's still deliberate. So I want you to think about everything that's on a screen, even in a bad movie, as being deliberate. There are some happy accidents. There are a lot of artistic and intellectual and logical choices being made on all levels. So that's the effect that I want you to get from mise en scène. This is one piece of control, and the more we can identify all of the small choices that were made just for one tiny scene, we start to understand and appreciate the deliberation with which we create art, I'm calling films art, in order to have an effect. If it's to entertain or to win an Oscar or to just be special in some way, it takes a Herculean effort. It's different from the videos you see on YouTube, which is kind of a one-shot piece. It's different from just editing and putting pieces together so that they can move from point A to point B. If you really want to generate an emotional effect, you've got to be deliberate about the mise en scène. So have fun with that. Good luck. Submit that form. There will be more assignments coming. I'll try to do some more videos and keep you up to speed. Bye.